Hello and welcome to the Strategy, Sales and Systems podcast. I'm Dani Louise Smith, business consultant, mentor and the queen of business organisation, and this podcast is for service-based business owners who want to make consistent income without burning themselves out. Here I focus on income producing activities for service-based businesses built around simple strategy, supportive sales and organised systems that actually work when life is unpredictable. No hustle culture, no doing all the things, just clear strategy, sustainable sales and systems that support you, not drain you. If you're ready to grow your business in a way that feels calm, intentional and aligned with real life, then you're in the right place. Let's get into today's episode. So we're continuing on with the book. Can you believe we're nearly at the end? So my Amazon best-selling book, Business Fundamentals, and we are on chapter 7, creation, the process, the power and the passive. And when I wrote this chapter of the book, I wanted to talk and walk people through creating their services. So the first section in the chapter is product, service and ideas. And then we move into, I can't remember now, so I'm having a look. Coinciding creations with focus and strategy, because I remember working on this and how important it was to make sure that all of the services you do coincide with each other. And then we've got master the management, time, money and magic, because as you build your service suite, as you build up everything that you do in your business, first of all, it needs to make sense. And second of all, it's about making sure they do coincide with each other, and so that basically if a client comes in, you can create lifetime value, so they can go from one service to another in a way that makes sense, but also that they can come in at any point in a way that makes sense, so that you can create client retention, but also so that you've got a different price point for people to come and access you at. You need different access levels. And that's what I was thinking about when I wrote this chapter. Now I'm going to get into it, because I don't want to keep you here too long. I like to usually do episodes that are quick, full of value. So let's get into it. So we've got product, service and ideas. So in this book we've covered a lot so far. Now it's time to look at the creation of what you're selling and the process of generating an income from it. When deciding what you're going to sell, there's one thing that plays a huge part in your products and services succeeding, and I would be surprised to hear if you have done it. Research. I truly believe that doing research around the ideas that you have leads to a higher chance of succeeding. This is because you can find out exactly what your target market wants and needs and create it. And I just want to add as well, there is a difference between what people want and what people need. And I see this a lot with my clients. So often what people want is to make more money through signing more clients. But what they actually need isn't more clients and more money. What they actually need is to work on the strategy, possibly to work on their brand and their messaging, and work on all of that together with marketing in order to be able to actually do the work on sales to get the clients to bring more money. So it all connects, but you can see how there's a difference between what they need and what they're actually wanting. Unless sometimes what people need is to be able to invest in the knowledge and the experience, getting the experience and doing the research and doing the things, learning the things that are going to get results, but they need more clients to get the money to invest. And so it becomes a cycle, so it's about breaking that cycle. So there is a case where what they need is very similar, very different, but in the sense of being able to solve the problem, what they need is never what they think they need. Okay, back to it. I truly believe that doing research around the ideas that you have leads to a higher chance of succeeding. This is because you can find out exactly what your target market wants and needs to create it. The first place I recommend you start when deciding on... One minute, got my pages stuck together. So the first place I recommend you start when deciding on what you're going to sell is getting an old school pen and paper and start mind mapping. I do this every year and mind map my ideas. I then take those ideas and use some of them for my business plan for the year ahead. I'm really structured in what I do next and organise the important elements of each service or product I'm going to offer. So think about, when do I plan to launch it or market and sell it? What is the price point? How many people do I want to sell it to? And how much income will that generate? Then, when it's nearer to the actual launch of the service, I do research ahead of time. In 2023, ahead of my foundation's 12-month programme launch, I did research into what my audience needed support with, looked at what my clients had needed the most, and how much on average people were spending on business investments in terms of support. I then created the program, adapted from content I already had. I created it to match up with my findings, and in 8 weeks I sold all my spaces on the program plus a lot of my planning bundles. In May 2024 I used the same method, research first, taking one of my original ideas and finding out what was needed at that moment in time. I launched my mini mastermind organisation implementation, and it sold out ahead of schedule before the month was out. This not only worked well in terms of achieving one of my business goals and creating a new income stream, but it also left space to create a new opportunity to earn more money and pre-sell the next round. Concluding on the idea of research, when it comes to your products and services, it's very much about knowing your target market. You really want to get to know your ideal clients. Navigating what you're going to sell is never easy, as there are so many business models you can have. Some people saying you should have a launch model, some people saying you should introduce products, and then experts on passive income pop up and promote that. The truth is, I decided to do it all. When navigating what products or services I wanted to sell, I simply decided just to offer both. My business runs on a launch model basis, where I open the doors to my masterminds every 3 months. Disclaimer, this has now changed. Then in between those launches, I sell some of my passive products, and it feels easy to navigate. It took a long time to get to this point, because I first had to figure out who I wanted to be, what I wanted to be known for, and then inject that into my services, which thankfully has happened successfully in 2024. I'm just going to interrupt my chapter because it's really interesting looking back and seeing what's happened. So I did that in 2024 and it worked really, really well. But then as we head into 2025, things took a massive turn, like really unexpected things with clients, health issues, personal circumstances that meant that they couldn't commit to the investment that they'd made. And so obviously it had to be treated with professionalism, but also treating people like human beings, which is exactly what I did, but it did mean it impacted my business. And then as we continued on into 2025, that continued to happen. So the work I'm talking about here, where you've got to get to know yourself and what you want to be known for, putting that into your services, I did that all again for the second time in 2025, but it's starting off this year more positively. So it's really important to go back to that. I decided to lean into my creativity and not wanting to focus on one thing and work with it rather than against it. However, I couldn't sell everything at once, so I focused on selling one service at a time and a mastermind getting clients into that one service, then introduced another to keep the focus and keep it simple. Before I wrap up this section, I know that you may be thinking, do I offer product, service or both? I believe there's room for both, and a diverse product suite has a great impact on your capacity to earn more. Ultimately though, it's up to you and what you want to create, what you enjoy and your energy can get behind and get excited about. Selling is always easy when you feel into it, love it, enjoy it and be excited by it. Definitely. Okay. Coinciding creations with focus and strategy. One thing that will absolutely transform your business, should you implement it, is focus. I have walked the walk myself and witnessed many aspiring entrepreneurs lacking focus with their business. First, a plan helps with this. Secondly, changing direction too much can be a huge detriment to your consistency in all areas. I do promote adaptation, adjust assessment before action. However, if you create something new every month, build momentum and it doesn't generate results, so you stop and do something new, you're impacting your business in several ways. Number one, you're confusing your audience by changing just as they get clear on what you're doing. A confused mind doesn't buy. Number two, you're burning yourself out trying to create and do all the time. So like creating new things and do new things all the time. Number three, you're breaking the flow within the business if you pivot all the time. Instead, I recommend deciding on offers you're sure about, something you generally love to sell, and run with that. If it doesn't work out, break down why it didn't work. What did you do well? What didn't go well? What can you do better next time? The key words there are next time. If you're passionate about succeeding, there has to be a next time. When I first launched Sustainable Sales, the Mastermind, I had nobody buy my service. I launched it again and again, and as I write this now, my launch isn't perfect, so I keep adapting and fine-tuning. I coined this idea a year ago, back in 2024, I remember when I wrote this. Yet only recently have I had a huge breakthrough in what I need to do differently to succeed with it. I truly believe now that I've found the key to landing the clients I want and hitting the goals that I want. It took running the programme multiple times to get here. It took trial and error and most importantly, focus. Focusing on this goal has been at the heart of this project. I could go and create something else instead. I could just face facts that a higher ticket programme isn't for me. I could do what I had done and accept neither of those as my reality. This is where I plan to focus on this 4 times a year to encourage the traction I wanted to create with it. Realistically, the more I continue to talk about it, focus on it, the more my audience warms up to the idea of it. So how do you gain that focus? Simply just decide. Decide right now that focus is for you and it's what you'll do. Let that be your mantra and take action. You want to take strategic action, so let's look at what strategy is. Number 1, a plan of action designed to achieve a long-term or overall aim. And number 2, it's the art of planning and directing overall military operations and movements in a war or battle. Strategy is a mix of both for me. It's a plan of action towards my bigger goals, but it's also about the specific operations and movements within my business to reach those goals. Think about what you want to achieve. What actions are you taking? What operations do you need? And what moves are you making? As you implement selling your products and services, you want them to coincide with each other. Create a flow from one offer to the next. Be strategic in how you operate what you're selling and when. Thinking back to when you looked at your service suite in chapter 3 and those offers coexisting with one another in terms of clients' delivery, your capacity to serve and your marketing. Working in this way brought me to a recent part of my story, selling out my second programme in less than 12 months and increasing my recurring revenue on a consistent basis. It has been a huge achievement and so great to see. It happened because of my own income becoming stacked between multiple services and products I am offering and them all generating income. And before I go into the next section of this chapter, I just want to state, it's interesting how that's what I was doing, that's what I was building, and it was working really well. Because that's exactly the model I'm doing this year, but with a different service. So I am now building the Boss Academy, and I'm so excited about it, so passionate about it, and it's more likely to succeed when you feel like that about the service you're delivering. But it's also really important to make sure you meet the market where it's at, that you have the messaging on point, and that you focus and you're being consistent with it even when it's not getting the results that you desire. And so I'm actually focused fully on that for this year, with a couple of things in between that I want to sell, because that's the one thing that's going to generate me an income but have the biggest impacts as well. So that's what I'm leading with, and I think it's interesting that I'm going back to that kind of model. I'm going to be launching it. You can join any time, but I will be doing a launch for it every 3 months. And it's interesting how this shift has happened, because last year nobody was doing live series, but now as we come into 2026, I decided to do it because I can get on board with launching that way. I enjoy launching that way if done correctly, if I manage my energy, and if I plan ahead, which I have done. But nobody was doing them, so I was a bit nervous about it. But ironically, I decided to do it, and now everybody seems to be rocking up and doing live launches, live series. So it's really interesting how it's shifted back and people are launching that way again. Okay, the next section is Master the Management, Time, Money and Magic. Achieving balance is my greatest success. Money is nice, the results my clients get are amazing, but ultimately the balance I've created with a life I am happy with is the one thing that I absolutely truly love, and I'm in control of this. Of course, I am passionate about helping you to achieve, however that is on you, not me. I am not in control of your success, you are. Recognising this for myself and taking full responsibility without excuses became a huge shift within the way I behaved when it came to taking action. Once you have read this book, I want you to be one step closer to finding your balance too, whatever that looks like for you. Whether you have a life of calm and relaxing days that just flow around your business, or chaotic and busy like mine with kids, animals and creative projects, it's about finding your flow in a way that works for you. First, you have to master time. You cannot take it back, you cannot create it, but what you can do is choose wisely how you spend it. Often in mentoring, I discover that most business owners find time management and money management a block back to progressing with business. This is where underlying issues start, because if you don't master either before you grow, then once you do, it can all go tits up. I've seen many occasions of this, and I want you to succeed. First, look at your life and business, your commitments and responsibilities, as well as the thing you want to do. What do you need to have included within your life? I recommend beginning with this and then deciding how much time each part of your life takes. Look at your business, decide how many hours you can commit to developing your business. It's worth being realistic and noting that in the beginning it will take more time than you like. It's about how much you really want it to succeed, whilst at the same time knowing that it isn't about working all the hours God sent, and that it's about prioritising how you use your time. The key to time management is not how much you work or how hard you work, it is instead about how efficiently you work. Working smarter and not harder is a real thing. My biggest advice for you is to always prioritise 3 things when you are time limited: lead generation, nurturing your audience, and sales activities. Of course, you need time to implement client delivery too, and all of this is an important factor in knowing the capacity you have to run your business. When I was working 4 jobs, it wasn't ideal for me to take on one-to-one clients, as I was town-bound, and so financially it made more sense to offer group opportunities so that I could earn more in less time and serve more people. That is exactly what I did. Time is money. You need to also master money, how you track it, invest it, save it. Money management has been one of my biggest challenges personally and within my business, and I'm so passionate about helping this too, as unfortunately we are never taught how to budget, and it is such an essential skill. Money management is about just that, knowing your numbers, your budget, and always being clear on tracking that, especially as your business grows. My recommendation is to always be on top of your finances within your business. Track what's coming in regularly, what's going out, and be mindful of your expenses. My biggest mistake at first was an unwillingness to invest because I wasn't making any money, yet it was the support and knowledge I needed to invest in order for my business to grow. You might find yourself in a similar situation, the chicken and the egg. What comes first? Honestly, find a way. For me, it was just going for it. I'm not advocating getting into debt, but what I'm advocating is finding a way. I'm going to interrupt this again because I literally just said this and forgot that it was coming up in the chapter. But I also want to share what I did in order to be able to invest. So I did all the free stuff. Like there's nothing wrong with doing all the free stuff if you genuinely can't afford to invest in your business. But what I would do if I couldn't invest in my business is find a way in terms of like what could I cut back on. So for example, if takeaway costs about 50 quid in our house now, but say that was costing 50 quid and we had one a week, then that's £200 a month that I could use to invest. That could buy, working with me, that could buy a mentor for the month. So I would look at it like that, and I would trade in something, because the reality is if you do that, you implement, you make money from your business, then the money you bring in, you're going to be able to get a takeaway anyway, so you can have both. So that's the way I'd see it, like girl maths, as they call it. But also, what I did do is I did all the free stuff. So when I had my first business, Dani Keepsakes, I signed up for the business enterprise course with the Prince's Trust, which is now the King's Trust. I ended up getting a free mentor there, and all the training, everything I did there was massively helpful, and I applied it to my business. So I actually was running it like a business and not a hobby, which made a difference because I raised my prices, I looked at stock and prices of like the supplies I needed, and so I was actually able to start making a profit from it. And then what happened was, as it started turning around and people coming for me advice and I wanted to start up this business, I used the money from that business to invest in this business. But before I invested, I'd do all the free stuff, I'd consume all the free stuff, but the key with me is I implemented it, because I see a lot of the time there are loads of people wanting to succeed, so they do the free stuff because they can't afford to invest, but then they don't implement, or they don't even go back over what they've done and implement again and tweak it, try it and audit it, and that's the missing piece. So I did that, and I'd research and I'd learn, I'd literally use the internet, I'd read blogs, read books, watch free videos, use YouTube, so many different resources. Like my channel alone has loads of content that you can binge, hours and hours of worth of content that will help you with your business to move forward. So I did that, and then I remember the first thing I invested in financially, so I invested time first, but the first thing I invested in financially was like this really short like course hosted in a Facebook group for like £30. And I took what I learned from that about social media, implemented it, and then I got results. But even before that, like I was getting results from social media before that through practice, through trying things. You've got to try it and look at it and see what's working and what isn't. I'm a natural problem solver, so for me that works. But you've got to get used to doing that before you put the money behind it. Because if you don't have the money to put behind it, you have to find a way. And that's my advice on that. Okay, back into it. So my recommendation is to always be on top of your finances within your business. Track what's coming in regularly, what's going out, and be mindful of your expenses. My biggest mistake at first was I've read this bit, haven't I? Yeah. Chicken and egg situation. Yeah, I have. So yeah, get out the chicken and egg situation. Okay, then there is the other hand with financial management, spending too much. I am no stranger to this either. So it actually flipped for me once I started investing and getting results. You can become addicted to that, so watch yourself for that. So once I began investing, it became like an addiction. I saw a return and was addicted to learning the next thing, spending on the next thing because I believed I needed it. Let me tell you, you don't need to learn everything right now, and you don't need to invest in everything. It's about choosing what is right for you right now. This held my business growth back a lot because whilst I was learning the knowledge I needed, I was unable to implement it all, leaving me in the time management trap again. It was also leaving my business below the baseline I needed to break even and earn a profit. Let's face it, profit is scary. Managing tax and being self-sufficient, it is scary. For so long, it felt way safer for me to be on benefits, and that held me back. I had to make that brave change to say no to investments I didn't need and start thinking smarter about what I was investing in and being intentional about it, and trust that the money I was spending was going to bring a return. My biggest advice is to manage your finances. Know where your next client payment is coming from, know when your next expense is going out, and make sure you retain enough cash in the bank to make those payments. It sounds simple, it really is, yet I struggle to maintain that basic level of cash flow, and many clients have discussed the same issue with me. Decide to make this change. At this point in my story, I have to touch on how this still recently affects me. In 2024, my business has already taken more money than any other year, which is amazing, but I've also spent a lot. I invested in a team with a grant that I was awarded last year, which has funded most of the support I now have. However, I wasn't ready for this level of growth, and not only did it bring some fears around money and management, it gifted me some old money stories and behaviours, but I am now eligible to recognise these so I could work on it. Writing this book has been quite an investment in money and time, but I spent time stripping back what I really needed instead of piling more things on my to-do list and sabotaging achieving what I really wanted when the goal of a work-life balance was just within reach. It's funny how we do that, isn't it? It's so close to success we desire, and suddenly we sabotage it. So I got to the point of recognising what I was doing and told myself no more, and now I'm on the way to huge changes in myself, my business and my life. The book is being published, I'm working less than I ever have in 12 years, and I'm about to begin launching in-person events and potentially a whole new business in 2025. Watch this space. And that's actually sort of what I did in 2025. I definitely slowed down on the spending, but what I want to say is like the damage was already done, so I'm still kind of trying to reap that back now, but yeah, it's interesting to look back on, and like my own advice, I need to still read it myself, and it's really interesting to look back on. But you can change it, and I'd say if it feels overwhelming to change it, do it incrementally, small steps at a time. Okay, the production and the practical. You hopefully should feel ready to manage your business and its processes better around your services, time and money. I hope by now you feel equipped with methods that you can implement within your business which will productively move you forward. It's time to produce your actual services with some practical action. Mind mapping is always a winner for me, but you can plan it as you like. List it, draw it, vision board it. Whatever way you do it, brainstorm ideas for your business for now and the future, distant and far. Spark your motivation and decide on what you're going to work on successfully selling first. Once you've decided, practice focus within your marketing. Decide how your services will coincide with each other. This could possibly look like launching and opening up your services every month, with all of them running alongside each other. Mapping this out helps ensure that I am not only stacking my income with multiple offers, but also I'm able to manage my capacity between multiple clients in multiple ways of serving them. How will your services coexist in your world? The most essential practical action for time management for me was deciding upon my dream schedule. I coined this idea in 2023, and it really transformed my focus in a time where so much change could have easily had an impact on my time management and overwhelmed me. I have seen enough business owners go through it in my time, and fortunately I've learnt from watching hard challenges others had faced and decided to be intentional with when I serve my clients, plus the other activities required within my life and business. It's not perfect because perfection doesn't exist, so I just like to accept that things are as perfect as they can be over time. My advice is to set a vision of a dream schedule where there are no limits and create one in your current reality that you can actually commit to now. Map out your week by first making a list of all the things you need to take action on to get by in life and business and compile it into a workable schedule. At the time of writing this, I've just achieved my dream schedule after 7 months of tweaking and trying and testing, and it feels amazing to have a balance after all these years. I'm completing this book in summer of 2024, having worked 4-day weeks and had additional time off with my children and enjoying days out while still supporting clients, working on new projects and attending a retreat, business events and meeting up with friends. If my future self could go back and tell my past self what I know now, it would have saved a lot of overwhelm. I'm grateful for the journey I've been on though, because I know that it was worth experiencing so that I could improve step by step, and it has enabled me to share my stories with you and my strategies for managing when building a successful business. Last but not least, I would love to direct you to my Organised Business Toolkit, which you can find within your book resources. This toolkit can help you manage money as well as other areas of your business. Set a time aside in your diary on a regular basis to master completing your bookkeeping. Trust me, having it up to date will save a lot of stress and overwhelm, and it can teach you a lot about how your business is performing right now too. And that's it. That is chapter 7. The next chapter is more about money. It's finance fix. So it's like revisiting money mindset and dedication to money management. So it just continues on about that. Budgeting and the money management. And then we have the price and the process. Fix your finances. So that's the next chapter. It's really interesting reading these chapters, but that was chapter 7. Again, get the best-selling book on Amazon if you want to take your time going through it and read it. And if not, come and listen to the next chapter in the next book chapter episode, where we'll be going into finance fix. If you enjoyed today's episode of the Strategy, Sales and Systems podcast, I'd love for you to take a moment to subscribe, leave a review or share it with another business owner who needs to hear this. You'll find links to my free resources, programs and upcoming events in the description, show notes, all in that place, all designed to help you simplify your business, strengthen your sales and build systems that support your life, not running it. Remember, success doesn't come from doing more, it comes from doing the right things in the right way for you. I'll see you in the next episode.